It's almost like a 70s show. Trying to describe the tone of what I wanted for Ben 10. I don't think anyone kind of got it. And then after watching Stranger Things, it's like, oh, that's what I wanted more of. But I didn't know how to articulate it to people. It was supposed to be a little bit more of a mystery show. And I think they wanted it to maybe be a little poppier. It didn't make sense to me that Ben was a superhero. He's got this watch and he could turn into aliens. But that's not necessarily superpowers. He's turning into monsters.
Glenn said in an interview where Stranger Things actually ended up being what he originally wanted to do with Alien
Oh, absolutely.
Force.
Stranger Things is exactly the network, and it's exactly what the network didn't want to do. And that was like, oh, it's so irritating because you go, that we tried to tell you that was what we were trying to do. And they're like, oh, it's so dark, it's so scary.
With the new release of Dwayne McDuffie's website, fans have been treated to dozens of never-before-seen documents detailing the production of Ben 10. From scripts, outlines, production schedules, and more. In this video, I'll be taking a look at both the original series Bible, back when Alien Force was known as Hero Generation, along with its second updated series Bible, to see how the show has evolved. I will also continue to read through a collection of Alien Force's outlines and scripts before moving on to Ultimate Alien and Omniverse in a future video. It's been fascinating seeing how many parts of the story were planned all the way since the beginning, and likewise how different some of the outcomes became. A fair amount of the scripts featured in this video are surprisingly similar to their final versions, but as we keep reading, we're met with some shocking changes as well. Was Rath originally not supposed to be a tiger? How did Vilgax freeze a scare, and what was his prison supposed to be like? Were Diamond Head's energy-absorbing abilities and Jet Ray's hyperspace feat really just a one-off misuse of their powers? Or was it always supposed to be part of their skill set? And much, much more. Just to clarify, this video is just meant to take those production documents and compare them to the final versions. If you're interested in proper recaps and reviews of the episodes themselves, please check out the corresponding links to my Ben 10 breakdown videos down below. But for now, let's get into it.
That whole summer was incredible, remember, Gwen? Hero time all the time. Kevin was still a bad guy.
Alright, so like I said, confirming with the wiki team, there are some files that are only accessible in the work tab or the Hero Generation series Bible. There's no way. Is this Comic Sans? So June 3rd, 2007. What was going on during then? This was around a month before season 4's first episode, Perfect Day. But this is still less than a year before Alien Force actually premiered. And this is only the first draft. They must have had all hands on deck to get that out on April 2008. Comedy, mystery, action, and monsters. Yep, that's Ben 10. Okay, let's take a good look at this. So he says, once again, strap on the Omnitrix. So Ben taking off the Omnitrix for a while was conceptualized ever since the beginning. Energy controlling cousin Gwen Tennyson. Note how they didn't use the word magic. Matter absorbing former nemesis Kevin. Find missing Grandpa Max. Gather a team. Yeah, so far this is just Alien Force, no changes. Upcoming battle. DNA alien conspiracy. So far the only real change is the title Hero Generation. When I first heard that was the working title, I always felt like that name was more epic somehow. I was like, oh, it should have been called that. But Alien Force is just catchier. I think they made the right move going with Alien Force. Set in contemporary America in other locations. I don't know about that. I think like they went to space a couple of times, especially in the third season, but when they were on Earth, they never really left America in Alien Force, right? It wasn't until Ultimate Alien they started like going around to different places, and that was mostly just for the old George arc. Hero Generation is X-Files, not X-Men. This is Scooby-Doo, but the monsters are real. So this plays into the Watchtower database, which by the way, they're doing their own video about some scripts on Dwayne's site as well. Y'all should go check that out. They're covering a lot of the Justice League stuff, while over here we're on Ben 10. But they did an interview with Dan Reba, who worked on all 3 sequel series, and he talked about how originally they wanted Hero Generation to be a lot darker and moodier, even more so than it ended up. He said they wanted it to be Stranger Things, and the network was afraid of going that horrific, that dark.
If you look at that first pilot of the first episode of Alien Force and how creepy and scary and oh my gosh, it's terrifying. And it's like, yeah, that's it. That's what we want.
Much to Dan's dismay, because when Stranger Things actually came out and became one of the most popular things in all of media at the time, it pretty much proved that Dan's original vision would have worked.
And the network was just so against it. They were like, why does everything have to be at night? Why does everything have to be at night? International had a lot to do with it also, because the show was very popular around the world and they wanted a lighter, sunnier, funnier show. You know, it wasn't its time to do. Stranger Things.
But still, it would have been cool. I would have liked to see a more like almost noir, if that's the right word, a little bit more of a mystery centered show of Ben 10. I feel like that could have been a cool take. I love this phrasing right here though. Our cast of characters will be driven by clearly externalized internal conflicts. Character behavior must always be motivated and actions must always have consequences. You can see that very strongly in the first 2 seasons of Alien Force. They were already being reeled back a little bit, you know, they couldn't go full on Stranger Things in terms of like tone and horror. But the reason why people say the first 2 seasons of Alien Force is the best is because of the characterization. They feel like real characters. I mean, y'all have probably heard me rant about this countless times on the channel. I don't need to get into it here, but it's true. Like the efforts to make these characters feel 3-dimensional absolutely pays off in the first 2 seasons. As epic as Ultimate Alien is, as colorful and fun Omniverse is, they don't have what this original version of this show had. And at least for me, that's the most important, is the characters. But check this out. Shortly after successfully defeating the alien menace of Vilgax, Ben learned how to remove the watch. So none of the stuff with malware or any of that was planned, which is acceptable, right? Like, how would they have planned that far in advance? But it goes to show that the original intention was that there was no heroics going on between the 5 years between Classic and Alien Force. That was added on later. Though, as a big fan of the malware arc, I think it's fine to chop it down to 4 years or so, but I feel like you gotta cut it at 4 years. You know, the more heroics you give Ben during the 5-year gap, the less important it feels that he's putting the Omnitrix back on. You gotta give him some time without it. And yeah, he is the goalie of the soccer team. They kept that, emphasizing he's still skilled, he's still athletic. He was always big on sports, so without heroics, Ben would probably be more of a sporty guy. Max is missing. Uh-oh. Alien searching the place. That's all the same. Although here it says Max manages to drive the creature off. They meant Ben. Another little typo right there. Wow, even the wall clock is in this version of the draft. They were very specific keeping these details to the Bible at first. Max has the Omnitrix, but Ben has the Omnitrix. Ben bikes home. Shoebox with Subo Slammer's cards. Underneath is the Omnitrix. They had a very strong vision for the start of the show because despite everything that might have changed later, this is all exactly the same. And in draft 1, that's impressive. He talks to Gwen. Gwen says, hold up there, cowboy. Maybe it's not the right thing. Maybe don't do that. He puts the Omnitrix back on. There's 10 new aliens, but he notices the new aliens first because right here it says they start investigating. So that's a little bit of a change. In the final episode, Ben doesn't get his new set of 10 aliens until they're already in the middle of the fight, and Ben first tries to activate the Omnitrix. Here, it seems like once he puts on the watch, he is already aware of 10 new forms. They also have the mysterious Alien X all the way back here, a form so powerful that Ben hesitates to use him for almost the entire season. Also an interesting thing, as originally, Ben didn't even know what Alien X could do or what he was until he used him as well.
Gotta stop that water. Good a time as any to give this one a try.
Here, it's like Ben knows the struggles of Alien X, and that's why he barely uses Alien X. In the show, it's kind of just a coincidence that, like, the last alien Ben tries out just so happens to be his most powerful and dangerous form. How would you know that without actually transforming into him first? So, it's a weird topic. But then it says, on the rare occasions he does unleash the cosmic powers of Alien X, it's always to spectacular effect. So, they planned on using Alien X more than once in the show. That would have been nice. Say what you want about Alien X, but Ben 10's not Ben 10 without Ben 10, not Ben 9, and then 10 this one time when he rebuilt a dam. If you're gonna give him Alien X, it'd be nice to see him a little more. You know, that's all I'm saying. You might as well make it worth it. A new alien race called the DN Angels. DN Angels? Yeah, okay, yeah, they call it DN Aliens right off the bat, so that's probably just another typo. But Ben can't do it alone. Kevin has recently escaped from the extra-dimensional prison, the Null Void. Another eventual change from canon, where we learn he does it when he's about, like, 13, I guess? But we didn't get that part of the story until, like, Omniverse, so of course, after all that time, it's gonna be different. But yeah, it was originally intended that Kevin was freshly freed, not free for a few years, screwing around with Argent and whatnot, having all of those adventures that he alludes to in Alien Force, where he was like, oh, I know this guy, I used to sell this to this guy. There had to have been some time outside of the Null Void in order for Kevin to acquire all of those contacts and experience and the reputation, going to Galactic Court. He had to have left the Null Void way before this series for all of that stuff to take place. This part has the biggest change, where they team up with several other young heroes. That does kind of happen, but not all of them are part human, part alien. Some of them are a little more ambiguous, like Cooper and Michael, and Ben will use his experience with many sets of superpowers. Eventually, Ben will lead his new team of visually stunning alien kid heroes, Ben's 10. I think this ties into the early show's marketing when they kept calling Alan Heat Blast 2 or Heat Blast the Second, whatever, Heat Blast Jr. Given McDuffie and the rest of the crew's background with comics, I always had this theory where Ben would pass on his alien names to these kids. Now that Ben no longer has Heat Blast, but Alan can turn into a Pyronite, he literally gives him the name Heat Blast, and Alan continues being Heat Blast. And Ben was gonna do that with all of his other transformations. Like, maybe Helen would have been the new Accelerate, Manny would have been the new Forearms. And I think, at least for McDuffie, in his mind, that stuck with him all the way through the show, even though it wasn't actualized, because he keeps referring to Alan as Heat Blast 2 in later Ultimate Alien scripts. There was a segment of scripts leaked like years ago for the opening of Fame where they're still calling Alan Heat Blast 2, or when Grandpa Max refers to Alan as Heat Blast in Absolute Power Part 2.
We expected Heat Blast and the others to get their powers back.
What do y'all think about that? Do you think if they went this direction that would have been acceptable, Ben passing down his alien names as hero names? Let me know what you think in the comments. In the battle against the unthinkably evil Dean aliens and their half-human, half-Dean alien drones, the hybrids. Now that seems interesting. We did see the word hybrid in the last video, and I was questioning if that was a typo or a working name. Now I'm thinking it was a working name, but it seems like the roles are reversed. In the show proper, the hybrids are the big bads, and they use the Dean aliens as their workers, their soldiers, their slaves, whatever. Here it seems like the Dean aliens are in charge. They're the top dogs, and the hybrids are the ones underneath them. Not a huge change, it's just like a role reversal. All right, let's move on. We got the status quo. Ben wears the Omnitrix and lets him turn to aliens. Standard stuff. Gwen and Kevin are there. Stop the Dean aliens. This is basically just simplifying everything we read earlier. There's episodes about plumber's kids or bizarre occurrences that turned out to be a hybrid plot. Yeah, okay, so hybrid is an official working title. I think we can confirm that now. Unless autocorrect is just really screwing them over in this document. The ID masks are here. They have a dark alliance with the Forever Knights. That was only really in the first episode, though. After that, they kind of split off, and there was the DN aliens and the Forever Knights. They were much less interconnected after the initial two-parter. That can only be resolved by Ben mastering the true secret of the Omnitrix, which is the fact it can cure things, I guess. All right, cast the characters. Here we go. Ben Tennyson. He'll jump into danger without giving it much thought. He'll think of something before it's too late. Yeah, that's Ben. They did end up writing him a little bit more level-headed. In contrast with the sometimes bratty, often oblivious 10-year-old Ben we've come to know, the 15-year-old Ben is a bit more sensitive and vulnerable. That's true. Yeah, Ben's got a lot of responsibility. This is just describing Ben's personality in more detail. A lot of it's like how we got in the show, so we don't gotta break this part down. He's the direct bloodline of a plumber couple, his grandfather and grandmother. So Verdona was not a plumber. Oh my back! Just because of this line, I feel like Verdona wasn't a thing yet. Here they accidentally typed Kevin instead of Ben again, talking about Ben. They call the Omnitrix Noah's Ark. Azimuth verbally states that in War of the Worlds Part 1.
The Omnitrix is Noah's Ark, and you are Noah.
The Omnitrix recalibrated to what it guessed where he needs. So the Omnitrix chose its current layout based on what it thinks would be most convenient for Ben. That's interesting. I wonder if that's still true. The Omnitrix's AI and how intricate it really is has never really been defined. It's always just kind of whatever it needs to be. You can return hybrids to their natural human form. Currently, Ben can use the Omnitrix to turn into 10 different forms. The way they describe Swampfire is one-to-one with his canon counterpart. Except for this part where they say he has large amounts of highly flammable methane gas, which can be seen burning through an opening in his chest. I believe we got some concept art that looked similar to that idea, but you can't see that with Swampfire. He just looks like a tree. But I think this would have been a bit too much for Swampfire, especially because we already see the flaming head with Heat Blast, and Swampfire and Heat Blast get enough comparisons already. We don't need to double down on that. Here's Goop, 200-pound single-celled organism. Though it says he can mimic the shapes of simple objects close enough to fool the opponent. We don't get that in the show because when Goop shapeshifts, he's always still like this neon pile of goo. Maybe he was supposed to change color or something, but I like that Goop is just Goop. I think if he could also camouflage, it would be too extra. Though they do mention his corrosive acid here, even though he didn't start using that till season 2. They had that planned for a bit. Here we got Echo, just known as Echo though, and this actually confirms a theory I've had for a very long time, where Echo's original name was just Echo. But when he first initially starts transforming in the first few episodes and all the Echoes are just shouting Echo, 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 they decided to just name him Echo. which I think is a more unique name. I like that it's Echo Echo, but I did always theorize that his name was originally just Echo, and this confirms it. That's really cool. Humongosaurus here. Right now it's using the O spelling. They used to swap between the U and the O until they settled on the U officially. And they call him a size changer here, saying he can grow, which everyone's first thought is usually, well, can he also shrink? Which, as if you saw the last video, he almost did in Vengeance of Vilgax Part 2. Although here they call Brainstorm a cetacean, which is a lot more mammal-like than actual crab. Although they do say he has a shell that opens up to be a big brain, so I think the crab element was still there. I do think we saw some concept art where he did look a little bit more fleshy. Maybe they were playing into that before going with full-on crab. Here, once again, they call Jet Ray Blue Streak. Other than the name and the color change, he's about the same. They even emphasize that he could fly at several times the speed of sound. Once again, emphasizing that his Eye of the Beholder feat was always intended and not an error. I'll always be a defender of that. My speed boy in the sky. It says his neuroshocks can shut down an organic attacker's nervous system, though. I would have loved to see that. Perhaps it does do that, and we just don't really get that visual. I would have loved a little bit more of a visual confirmation of that in the show, because that's a lot cooler than just a laser. We get a lot of lasers in Ben 10. Big Chill, an intangible ghost who can pass through matter. Chromastone was just called Shard, a living crystal. Powers are about the same. Spider Monkey, he's the same. Alien X. This form is so powerful that the first time Ben takes it, he accidentally destroys a mountain range. I remember seeing that on an info card a while ago and wondering where that information came from. I guess it was from this packet right here. And then he starts fearing Alien X and only uses him in dire situations. That's another big change. So the original plan was for Ben to use Alien X, accidentally destroy the mountain, and then Ben starts fearing him. Versus the canon version where he was just like, well, let's try this guy, reverses time, and then he's not seen again until the next series. Destroying a mountain range is significantly less impressive than rewinding time. So in terms of showing Alien X's spectacle, I do like the time reversal better for his first ability. I would have taken it if we got more Alien X. I don't like that in Ben's initial Alien Force 10. It feels like we can never have the full 10. This version of Alien X makes him seem like he's a lot more possible, like he'd be used a lot more. Gwen Tennyson has grown out of her tomboy phase and is now what Ben calls a total girly girl. I mean, Gwen in Alien Force is more leveled out, but I wouldn't say she's a super girly girl either. She's still got like that tough attitude, and they do emphasize her martial arts, but she says she wouldn't break a board because it gives you calluses. I think they toughened up Gwen a lot more for the final. I think there's still elements of her tomboy phase that they honored in Alien Force, but this draft makes it seems like it would be a complete change. Though in recent times, I do see a lot of defenders that Gwen should have stayed like a tomboy throughout the whole series. I could see that being fun too. I love the version of Gwen we got though. In fact, I've said this before, out of all the characters in Ben 10, I feel like I relate to her the most, just with her decisions and her way of thinking and how she handles problems. So for me, I wouldn't want to lose that character, but to tie her closer to the classic series, I think it would have been fun if she remained like a tomboy throughout the whole show. That could have been interesting to see how they'd pull it off. Yeah, a lot of this is just more generic teen girl stuff. Here they do call mana a mystic energy, but they do say her powers aren't magic. They were moving away from magic pretty quickly. And they do say her energy powers are from her grandmother. So the concept of Verdona was being developed, but still up here when they said that the grandmother was a plumber, she wasn't, so wasn't entirely finalized yet. She's more powerful in a forest than in a city. We kind of got hints of that with Verdona absorbing the energy around her from the grass and trees in her initial fight. And there were a few instances in the show where they say a lot of technology makes Gwen's powers not work. So there's elements of that in there, but it wasn't a strong part of her character at all. It says many of the Omnitrix's unexplained malfunctions during the original series were unknowingly caused by her nascent powers. That was never stated in Alien Force, but we did see a little bit of that idea in Destroy All Aliens when Gwen's Discombobulus spell causes all the malfunctions and thus kicks off the plot of the movie. Kevin Levin, he escaped the null void. Now his abilities are, they use the word limited to solid substances like metal and stone, though in the show it's less of a limitation and more of a choice. And they describe a monstrous suit of armor, where in the show it's just a sleek covering. We did get a little bit of a monstery look in Omniverse, but that's much later. Kevin's super cool, man. Though they do emphasize his history with trafficking alien technology. Again, I feel like he would have need to escape the null void for some time to acquire all of those knowledge and connections. I don't think he could have just popped out of the null void and be super involved in the business, you know? The car has alien tech. That came back in the show. He did get a plumber's badge. Here's the DNA aliens. They believe their DNA is pure and good. Yeah, all of the hybrid stuff, just with a different name. They're building a portal to invade the Earth. They have the final planned out all the way here, too, that the DNA aliens are dying from resisting genetic diversity. And he does cure them by combining their DNA with other alien races. So the whole ending of Alien Force Season 2 was planned all the way in the first draft. I like that. Forever Knights get their own section. Probably because the whole dragon thing was supposed to be a bigger deal. Though it says they were formed in the Middle Ages by King Arthur, we'll come to know that it was actually King George, but the idea of medieval history being tied to the knights is still there. They use medieval-themed super technology. Sorta. They got the lances and the armor, but later on they just fly around in those red cruisers and such. I would have liked all of their tech to look more medieval. Writer's tips. This is neat. Spoiler alert, in the last episode, Ben and his team defeat the alien invaders and save the world. Don't tell anybody. Tell your story and don't get hung up on either the big arc or the show's mythology. You shouldn't have a PhD in the original Ben 10 to enjoy the new Ben 10. That's good. Never alienate your audience. This show is about cool, weird stuff. It's not a superhero show. It's a weird fantasy show. It did kind of become a superhero show. This is more towards the Stranger Things vibe, I guess. Character comes first, but you gotta keep it fun. Absolutely. Ben isn't angsty. He's a positive hero who finds a way to win, but also finds a way to help and has a blast doing it. The biggest stories are the emotional ones, not the ones with the most spaceships. Abso-fucking-lutely. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, that's the pitch Bible. Really cool stuff in here. It's a lot simpler than I would have hoped. I was hoping for some really juicy stuff in here, but this is the first draft, and we did get some neat changes, so I guess this just goes to show they had a clear vision. Like, the fact there really isn't that much different from the final show emphasizes that they knew what they were doing. All right, let's move on.
We aims to be repossessing that there glob of galvanic necomorph.
So this link is apparently not accessible on the website, but the wiki was able to dig it up anyways. This is the outline for Vreedle. So let's take a look at this before we dig back through the remaining Alien Force document. It describes them as two monstrous guys in the cast of Raising Arizona. Facts, as just like what I mentioned in my breakdown, Charlotte took strong inspiration from Raising Arizona when creating the Vreedles.
All right, you hay seasons to stick up. Everybody freeze. Everybody down on the ground.
You want ice, it freeze or get down on the ground. You see?
Shut up! Y'all can just forget that part about freezing now. Let us till they get down there. Yeah, y'all hear that, don't you?
They get pulled over by a little robot space cop. You know, that would have been a fun thing to see come back. I think it's just in this episode. In fact, hindsight's 2020, but it would have been even neater if it was that little robot in Omniverse 2 to kind of foreshadow the extended plumber's procedure. Octagon tries doing the talking, but Boyd shoots the robot. Julie's backyard, playing with Ship, but it says Ship is absorbing stuff like a ball, a stick, and a lawn chair. In the show, he does a tennis racket and a bookshelf, but still, I don't like the idea that mechamorphs confused with non-super technological things. The Vreedle show up, they want Ship. It says Ship takes over the lawnmower to attack them, but it turns out it's just a leaf blower. That's kind of cute. I don't think Ship tried attacking them at all in the final. No, Ben showed up and screamed at him a lot. Kevin's using his ID mask, so at this point, the mutation storyline that we got was probably put into effect. What was this, September 2008? Yep, that sounds about right. But here they have to go to Galvin Prime to settle the court order, whereas in the final episode, the Galactic Court has its own section. It's not centralized with the Galvins. That was a smart move to me. Way too many things in the show are tied to the Galvins. Julie and Gwen stay on Earth to protect Ship, while Ben and Kevin go to court. That makes sense, but look at this right here. Spider Monkey 2's spaceship. For one, in the final episode, it's Lou, the moon guy's spaceship they use, not Simeon's, but it's interesting that they use the word Spider Monkey 2. So is he supposed to be a remnant of Ben's 10 as well? In fact, that's even stranger because Ben's 10, even if we would go with the theory where Ben passes down his alien names as hero names, Spider Monkey is a transformation Ben still has right now. He would still need that name. So even if Simeon was supposed to be like a good guy or have a redemption or whatever and join the team, it's not like Ben could have passed down that name to him yet because he's still Spider Monkey. Unless you really want to go with a comic route where like a bunch of people at the same time can be called the same name. Like there's a bunch of Green Lanterns at the same time. There's a bunch of Spider-Men at the same time. When we start going that direction, at least for Ben 10, I don't think it works, but we didn't get that anyway, so it doesn't matter. Though here it says Julie has Ship hidden in her backpack, whereas in the episode he is her backpack. So now they're on Galvin Prime. They say the judge is a cerebral crustacean like Brainstorm. That would have been neat. See more of them. I do like Judge Dom that we got anyways though. He's a cool character. The bailiff is an altered hybrid that ended up being in the show. Here Bazel's name is spelled like the herb. I like BAZ-L better. Bazel's trying to get Ship back. Fight. Ben egos his way through and somehow it works. Oh, it says he wants to turn into Brainstorm to relate to the judge. That would have been cool. This is more of the Omnitrix uses that I want to see. But of course he gets Humongousaur instead and destroys everything because it's Alien Force Season 3. We can't get those character first moments anymore like the pitch Bible. They put the boot on Ship. Yep. Ben fights the Vreedles using goop and the rest of the episode just plays out as normal. All right, so not a lot of changes here. Judge Dom being a cerebral crustacean and the court happening on Galvin is probably the biggest changes. Everything else is just, typical draft stuff. All right, I'm glad we read through it, but nothing too enticing here yet. Let's keep digging.
I'm the one who beat the bad guy. Single-handed.
So at least in terms of Alien Force, we've dug through all of the stuff that's not in its actual document. Let's head back over to that page. I remember I accidentally skipped the single-handed outline last video, so it only feels right that we're gonna start here. This was actually one of my favorite episodes in season 3, so I'm glad that we can check this out. In the opening battle, Ben/TBD alien grapples with energy-wielding alien hacks. All right, so this is one of those scenarios I was talking about last video where it doesn't matter which alien Ben is at the time, so whenever you identify it in a draft like this, it's weird to me. This is more of what I'm used to, where if it doesn't matter which alien is, they just don't even bother identifying. And it looks like Sunder's original name was Hax. Sunder's a lot cooler. He does have his energy-wielding axe. He cuts off Ben's Omnitrix wrist and scoops it up. Ben's now in the Null Void. TBD Null Void alien attacks. That ends up being the Wigzillion Org Beast, I believe it's called. It says that Hax here is on a motorcycle-like spaceship as he blasts off. In the final, he gets a glider, much like the Green Goblin, perhaps to parallel the alien they end up using, Spider Monkey, with the opening scene very Spider-Man-like. Hax/Sunder also kept Ben's hand in an energy cage, whereas in the episode, he just throws it in the back of his glider with a bunch of boxes. Hand wriggles free, palms Hax like an alien facehugger. Can we get away with an eye poke? Man, they went from we're gonna make Stranger Things on Cartoon Network to being afraid if they can poke somebody's eye. Standards and practices really fucked them up. Although they did get away with the eye poke though. You know, good for them. The hand makes its way to Julie. I've noticed they don't explain in this draft how the hand can walk around by itself either. They don't in the episode, so I'm wondering if they'll mention it here somewhere. Null Void Ben's facing off against Vulpamancers. That's a weird spelling for Vulpamancer. The kids turn him into Big Chill. They do specify he's Big Chill here, so I guess here it's important. Yeah, because he freezes the entire lake when facing off against the Vulpamancers. Though in the episode, he just freezes the Vulpamancers themselves, not the whole lake. Though here he becomes Swampfire specifically to melt the ice, whereas in the episode, the Vulpamancers break themselves free, and Ben becomes Swampfire just to continue to fight them more. Turns to Jet Ray to fly away. Yup, that happens too. He makes his way to Max's old hideout. Gwen and Kevin show up. Max is there, fight. Though here it says they're at Gwen's house, whereas in the final episode, they're in Kevin's garage. Kevin's garage makes more sense, but I'm all for more diverse locations. I feel like we get enough of Kevin's garage. Though it says Julie dials in Chroma Stone, but Ben doesn't have Chroma Stone at this time. He got destroyed in Vengeance of Vilgax, which we do have the script for. First draft of Vengeance of Vilgax was October 27th, 2008. This draft was written September 16th, 2008. So this was before the first official script of Vengeance of Vilgax. So at this point in time of the writing, Ben still had Chroma Stone. I wonder if it wasn't until the script of Vengeance of Vilgax that they decided that Ben officially loses Chroma Stone for Diamond Head. Ben fights the Havoc Beast, then he switches places with his hand, reverse the polarity, Doctor Who reference. And yeah, episode ends with Sunder getting sent to the Null Void. So yeah, that's about the same as well. Not too many changes here either, mostly just Sunder's characterization in the motorcycle versus glider, as well as Chroma Stone being there. That's very interesting. All right, what else you got for me?
I get to change the atmosphere, the terrain, the oceans, any way I want.
Inferno. Okay, let's take a gander. So this was September 22nd, 2008, also before Vengeance of Vilgax's first script draft, and a whole year before it will actually air. It's interesting that the first draft of this script was completed before the draft of Vengeance of Vilgax. So here we open on a desert oil rig. Oh, and some red text. Could this be more McDuffie edits? How frequent is it? Kind of frequent. All right. Though the whole opening scene is extended a lot more. Here comes the horde of peroxivores. They even have that term in the script this early. A lot of this dialogue is exactly the same in the episode, though. This is pretty accurate for such an early draft. Though here Ben says Max instead of Grandpa Max. What is this, Alien Swarm? Wow, even the Ramjets line is in here. Hey, you know what? Let me just do a quick skim ahead, because I'm pretty sure this whole script is just going to be exactly the same. Yeah, so far all of this is the same. I mean, here Spider Monkey shouts Humongosaur rather than Jet Ray.
But I know someone who is. Humongosaur!
And there's very, very small changes like that throughout the script, but nothing really notable. I'm not gonna lie, I'm being a little biased as this isn't the most favorable episode, so I don't want to spend too much time with it unless there's something really jumping out at me. But I mean, the only thing that's really jumping out at me is how surprisingly on brand this script is to the final. And yeah, I mean, it's just the script for Inferno, but now we know for sure. So right here, you do see the Vreedle outline, but when you click it, it's the Time Heals story outline. That's why I had to navigate it through a different link in order to read the Vreedle outline. Thanks again, Wiki team.
What is that thing?
The end of the human infestation. The end of our war.
We got the outline for If All Else Fails right here. This is another episode I enjoyed from Season 3. One of the rare times we're seeing a log line in these documents. Funny how the jackrabbit in the start of the episode was significant enough to be in this teaser. Gotta set the stage, though. Sign of a rabbit obviously means they're not in the city. Grandpa Max telling football stories from his youth. In the episode, he's talking about his plumber history, much more in line of Grandpa's character. The hybrid wakes up due to earthquake tremors. Now we're back at Max, cooking hot dogs and not the squid burgers. So the story beats are there, but the finer details that makes Max who he is missing. He's not a hot dog grilling football player. He's a squid burger slinging space cop. Though his shudder is, it feels like someone walked over my grave. Damn, Max. Very poetic. Though Max is tweaking a bit. I think it's hot dog fumes. Interesting. The vines grow on the back of his neck. That does happen in the episode. And at night, Max gets up and wanders off with more vines. Yep. He gathers with other humans, emphasizing different genders and races. Ben 10 has gone woke, obviously. The trio arrive and Ben transforms into Shard. 3 seasons in and Adam was given the outdated pitch Bible. They should update that thing. But also to note, yeah, Ben has Chromastone here too. That's 2 episodes where he has Chromastone when he shouldn't. Although in Singlehanded, Chromastone's hand was replaced with Diamond Head, paralleling the events of Vengeance of Vilgax, whereas here in the final episode, he just turns into Spider Monkey, completely different from Chromastone. And he tries to use him to use his crystalline finger to delicately rip open the chrysalis. Now, Chromastone has displayed super strength many times, but Ben's never used Chromastone to deliberately use his sharp crystalline features. That's much more of a Diamond Head thing. You can tell that Adam's very unfamiliar with the status quo of Ben 10, as the last episode he worked on was Hunted, which was all the way back in Classic, which prominently featured Diamond Head, so, you know, I see it. The hybrid shows up, they call him the Bunker Hybrid. His mission is to protect the chrysalis until the hybrid can be born. So they do use the phrase hybrid right here as well. The hybrid is also spell-proof, that's interesting. And Cactus Armored Kevin. Oh, that would have been sick. Seeing Kevin absorb, like, plant life? I wonder if that counts as just, like, pure material absorption, or since plants are alive, could you say that's like a DNA absorption power? But regardless, this means he's not in his mutated form either, or else he wouldn't have been able to do that. So what date was this? November 10th? This was after that Vengeance of Vilgax script, but maybe not everybody is on the same page about all the updated information. So we got Chromastone and Cactus Kevin. Good stuff. Big plant guy comes out, they say tens of feet above them, which I guess is true. I mean, in the episode, I would say like hundreds of feet. He's really big in the episode, but tens of feet isn't incorrect. The hybrid lives. Maybe the big plant thing is called the hybrid specifically. Do they call it anything in the episode, or is it just like plant monster or something? The wiki calls it failsafe. It's got a name source, so that's probably revealed in the script version, which we're going to read next. But for now, it's called the hybrid. Ben switches from Shard to Humongosaur. He does use Humongosaur in the episode, but first he transforms back to Ben. And I believe Humongosaur is an accidental transformation. He was going for way big. Cactus Kevin tries to tear into the hybrid, no success. Now they're in the desert. Wait, where were they? Oh man, I almost missed that. So it was activated in the desert and not the forest. Then they were in the trailer park, also not the forest. So the whole episode takes place in the forest, whereas here it switches between a campsite, a trailer park, and a desert. Bunch of different locations. I think the forest works better. We don't see a lot of forests in Ben 10. We have before, but significantly less than deserts. You know, I'm all set with deserts. Ben's got a plan and switches to Blue Streak. Yep, good old Blue Streak over here. Then the authorities come, that happens. Riney clears things up, but it's still too late to shut down the hybrids, going towards the power plant. Ben uses Blue Streak jet ray again. Then inside, when they start fighting umbilical plant fighters, whatever they're called, Kevin touches Ben's metal belt buckle to absorb properties more imposing than paper. That's funny. Can you imagine him walking up and he just reaches down and he's like, whoop? Bet he really wish he held onto that sack of materials Gwen gave him, huh? They cut the cords and it reveals humans. Ben uses swamp fire to free Max. The bunker hybrid doesn't take control of the brain though. That's not in here. Instead, Riney just takes him back home. I guess that's sweet, but I like the brain sacrifice better. All the kids agree with Max. No, sell it for the foreseeable future. That's funny. All right, yeah, quite a bit of changes in here. Some of the changes are just because of outdated information, like the mention of Blue Streak and Ben having access to Chromastone, Kevin being able to absorb materials, and we don't get to see Cactus Kevin, big loss. But generally, it happens about the same. I would say the climax in which the bunker hybrid doesn't sacrifice himself, that's probably the biggest change, along with the fact they were near a desert. But let's take a look at the script version and see how it compares.
Oh, Marilio. Human Gosara Maritan, huh?
Looks like we got some blue text here showing up here. I don't know what that is. There's the friggin' jackrabbit again. The dialogue so far seems the same, but they're still at the trailer park, so they haven't quite made the change to the forest yet. Yeah, it's a lot more updated. Max is talking about the plumbers, squid burgers, the bunkers in the desert too. Okay. Seems like one of the many examples of the dialogue being the same, but the action beats and visuals changing. We had a few of those in the last video as well. Yeah, all about the same. Sans Humongosaur's spelling. I like that they specify the military-looking jeeps and troops are the army from Vengeance of Vilgax. So now they're aware of the events of Vengeance of Vilgax. That makes sense. In fact, I'm gonna check. Are they? Yeah, I mean, they have the same designs, just different colors. Like this note of Diamond Head using 2 fingers as scissors to cut through a vine. That would have been cool to see. Here they say Devin Levin, though. Remember in the last video how his working name was Lucas Levin? Damn, there's no dates shown here for me to compare. Oh, is this really how you spell Riney? All right, the bunker hybrid does do the sacrifice. A change for the better to me. Oh, and you actually see the trio rescue the zombified humans. In the final episode, they come out and they only rescued Max. I think that was just a fault of like either the animation or the storyboards or something though. I'm pretty sure that they were supposed to save the humans and they just didn't draw them in the scene. This is much, much closer to the aired version, almost perfectly. Dialogue-wise, it's spot on, but still some minor changes. A really cool read. What's next?
What a wonderful opportunity. Both of my greatest enemies in one body.
Ghost Town Outline. Oh, yes. This is another one that I did skim through. There was one thing that stuck out to me that I thought was pretty funny. But let's take a real meaty look at this now. Starts on a blazing star patrolled by a battle cruiser. But Vilgax, souped up with powers he claimed from his latest win against another planet's hero. Is that just to reiterate the new status quo for Alien Force Vilgax? Or was he supposed to fight even more heroes since losing to Ben Tennyson after Vengeance of Vilgax? Like, he keeps collecting powers. I suppose he should have just done that. Like, why'd he stop at 10? So here he tears right through the ship, whereas in the episode we get a neat little scene of him entering the ship and slaughtering all the robots. That looked a lot cooler to me. Though this actually sounds cooler than the episode. Ghost Freak is bound by chains of light to the surface of the star. That sounds awesome. In the episode, he's just sitting under a lamp in an empty room. There aren't even guards in that room. Vilgax uses some gadgetry or magic or pop-up tent to produce an area of darkness. Yeah, I'm already liking this a lot more. This sounds much cooler than just going inside the empty storage locker. Ghost Freak revived, whispers the secrets of the watch to Vilgax. Then Vilgax frees Ghost Freak. Then he launches himself at Vilgax. With Ghost Freak driving, they can defeat Ben Tennyson and claim the Omnitrix as Vilgax struggles against himself. Yeah, this whole opening is so much cooler than the actual episode. Another day on Earth, the trio's golfing. Here they're fighting a hybrid or a to-be-determined oldie but goodie alien foe. In the episode, we got a brand new thing. The gopher-looking thing that's like this giant worm with a bunch of gopher heads. The Godzilla joke's in there. Here, Vilgax arrives in a ship, whereas in the episode, it's just himself. Vilgax resisted Ghost Freak's possession using his gauntlet. That could have tied into Vengeance of Vilgax. Then Ghost Freak attacked the home planet with no natural light source, so Ghost Freak is quite powerful. Is that true? I don't know. We never see a sun outside of Vilgax's planet, so maybe. They don't really trust Vilgax, but figure it's worth it for his people. Vilgax saves the little girl. Still hate that. The plant joke is in there. Gwen uses her pink zaps. That's funny. Ben has a plan for how to defeat the Grand Poobah Ghost Freak. Not once do they ever call him Zascare. Ben jumps in front of Ghost Freak, and then they merge. Suddenly, the X logo disappears from Ben's chest. That jumped out to me when I was skimming this the other day. You can always tell when a guest writer's working on the show. Vilgax and Ghost Freak fight. Ghost Freak speaks in Ben's voice. That doesn't happen. It also says that Ben and Ghost Freak battle within, struggling to control the other. That could be text to just set the mood of the scene. I don't know if we'd physically see that on screen. He strikes the crystal, allowing Ben to take control. Episode ends, and Vilgax over here now knows the secrets of the watch. Aside from the opening, this episode played out pretty much as normal. I think the opening would have been a much better spectacle than what we got. But other than that, this episode plays out just about the same.
My face. I'm human again.
Trade-off. I didn't really care for this episode at first, but let's see if this draft has any surprises to woo me. Open teaser in the secret HQ of Dark Star. In the episode, it's just like an old theatrical supply store, which I guess could still be his headquarters. Kevin Kool-Aid's his way in, but that's what Dark Star wanted. He tells him about the Dommy Libby, though this is a big difference right here. They search for the Dominus Librium on a barren alien world. In the episode, we just get an island. I guess they were just trying to switch it up, because alien worlds are starting to to become standard for us to explore in Ben 10 here. They're like, let's go to other places on Earth. So they do go somewhere other than America on Earth. I guess this counts. All right. Yeah, reading more, it is still just like an ancient temple on another alien world. They do got the stone statues that happened in the episode just on Earth. They get the artifact, the place falls apart, they escape. Of course it does. It's a freaking temple. They use the Domatron to cure themselves. Though Kevin tries to use his powers again to see if it works, and it doesn't. I think that could have been in the episode. It wasn't really needed. I mean, you can visibly see that it worked, but it just would have been a nice little story beat. Cut to their next mission, to which I'm more than open to suggestions, but which probably ought to involve some old menace we faced before. This sounds like some shit I would put in my notes. If it doesn't specifically matter for an outline, I'm just like, okay, and then this happens, and I'll figure it out when we're fleshing out the script. So here it says Kevin uses his ingenuity to emulate some element of his powers and prove himself still a capable member of the team. I like that phrasing. Though this part's kind of dumb, with Kevin muttering to himself that he did the right thing working with Morningstar, and that's how Gwen finds out. It's an outline, sure, but still, that's not a great idea. I like what does Gwen do? She like senses Darkstar's mana or something? That's a lot more creative and more in line with the character. So in the episode, that's a change for the better. Although here it says she does that anyway, so like why even have him mutter? Probably just like a throwaway idea while they're fleshing out the script. I mean, they do have this whole paragraph about something happens after all. So once again, just reiterating that we can't take these drafts as concrete. Michael rips off an overcoat, revealing he's wearing an armored outfit that has the artifact right smack in the center of his chest. We kind of get that. I mean, he does wear the Domalong on his chest, but he's just wearing his regular outfit. If he had like a custom outfit for it, I think that could have been cool. In fact, he's literally hiding out in a theatrical storage unit, literally full of costumes. It's the perfect excuse to dress him up a little bit. You know, why not? They realize Gwen figured it out and she's going after Morningstar. Here he uses either Jet Ray or Echo Echo to go after Michael, and Kevin follows Ben. Whereas in the episode, Ben does become Echo Echo, but as a joke, piling into Kevin's car. Then they just drive after him.
You know, you could have done that before you got in my ride.
The Echo Echo joke is kind of funny, but also makes Ben look really stupid, so I could have gone either way. They arrive and start fighting Michael. It isn't confirmed Ben uses Swamp Fire, but it does say that he's an alien form. Kevin saves the day, turns everything back to the status quo. Kevin's a monster again. They call Kevin a mixed element man. There's always been debate on like what Kevin actually transforms into in Alien Force Season 3. We know it's because of the Omnitrix, because at the start of Season 3, the Omnitrix explosion is what causes it, and then at the end of Season 3, the Omnitrix being destroyed frees Kevin. So it's directly linked to the Omnitrix, but it's always been perplexing to me. Why does he become materials and not an alien mutation? I believe I've mentioned this in a previous breakdown, but I'll bring it up again real quick. I remember way back in the day on the original McDuffie forums, someone asked Dwayne directly, and I remember this so clearly because I was going to ask him that and I saw somebody beat me to it. Why does Kevin look like he's made of materials and not DNA if it's because of the Omnitrix? And Dwayne said that Kevin did absorb DNA, it just looks like materials. And I have a really hard time buying that, but also narratively it makes sense if you think about it, because it's like, yeah, why did he turn into materials if the transformation is linked to the Omnitrix? I don't know, and the show never gives us a clear answer. But then we see in outlines here they do call him the Element Man, so I don't know. His whole Season 3 mutation has always been so weird. In fact, now that Dwayne's site is live again, the whole reason I'm making this video, and we still don't have the forums, I have a feeling we're just never gonna know. Never gonna see that forum again. Y'all don't have to believe me, it's okay. I'm not even standing by this as fact myself. I'm just letting y'all know what I recall from reading a thread about 13, 14 years ago and still not understanding why Season 3 Kevin looks the way he does. He just does, I guess, you know, he does.
Who otherwise would have?
Did you know Jarrett was gonna eat the baby?
Well.
Alright! What are we looking at next? Connor Rath outline. Alright, this will be fun. Originally just titled Rath. December 19th, 2008. Ben and Gwen sigh as Kevin finishes the damage on his car suffered during a run-in with a city bus. This changes with Gwen being impatient, waiting for Kevin and Ben to be ready going to the beach. Two pale, stick-thin, robe-wearing aliens teleported to view. Yep, that's the Luodans. There are Luodans here too, from Luoda, but it's spelled differently here. Here their leader is called Kaput, which is different from his name in the show.
I am Ambassador Zavinul from the planet Luoda.
Lots of changes so far. We've barely just begun. Yeah, Luodan has a different spelling right here too. But the Panthephage is the same. The Tiffin's described as a cross between a cloud and a marshmallow. That's cute. This was back when Tiffin was the name of the crown prince of Luoda, not just referring to an adolescent Luodan. Sicily over here is called Progen, or Progen, however. Tiffin causes sparks. The filthy rich ambassadors of Luodan give them a shitty ship for some reason, and they're off. Tiffin causes Ben to become Rath. They call him a mix of a Klingon, Hellboy, and Hulk Hogan. The Hulk Hogan reference was clear as day. But Klingon and Hellboy, I wouldn't have said that myself, with cartilaginous sheaths growing from his wrists to his fingers. Here, Gwen uses a force bubble and purposefully sucks out all the air from Rath, whereas in the show, it seemed like it happened by accident.
It's time for you to learn that nobody can beat me, and did I just use up all my air? Ugh.
Or at least it was less deliberate. Rath just breathed all of the air and used it up. This is straight up suffocation. Another extremely useful ability that Gwen could do with ease that she never does again. We return with Rath hog-tied to a chair versus Gwen having him mana-bound to the back of the ship. They say Raths are powerful, as if Rath is the species. I imagine that's just a placeholder, though. Also, I forgot that this episode introduced the alien species database. I don't think that ever comes up again either. Rath frees himself by flexing his muscles versus Gwen disengaging the magic. I love this exchange, though. This is new. Kevin notes. What? Gwen asks. For once, I'm not the one who's out of control. That's not in the episode. They should have kept that, though. I like that. So they go to the space cafe. They directly refer it to the Star Wars cantina, of course. Argent is repeatedly referred to as Argent in this draft, though. That's a big oopsie doopsie right there. The Vreedle brothers show up. I thought you guys bought the farm. Probably just means they died. That's some outdated slang. The dimwhips correct him. Nah, that was Octagon and Rhomboid. We're their clones. Hexagon and Tesseract? What? So Octagon and Rhomboid died, like, for real? I mean, of course they actually did anyways, but like the clones were still like Octagon and Rhomboid, so I guess that's intriguing. Every time the Vreedle brothers show back up, they got different names. I wonder if they would have looked exactly the same too, or if they'd all have like slightly different things. See the big bar fight, Rath ejects them into space, the incursions show up, specifying Emperor Milius, Commander Milius, I guess, also with a different spelling. Yeah, in the episode, he's someone different. He's like Commander Sangfroid. I think the incursions were supposed to have a whole bunch of different leaders in charge of different armadas, but by the time we got to Omniverse, it was very much Milius as the absolute head. So if they knew they were going that direction, they probably would have gone through with making this Milius as well. I don't know why like Sangfroid had to be here. Sangfroid's appearance is pretty strange, knowing the future of the incursions. So they get attacked by a bunch of gunport frogs jumping out with their tongue stuff. That's very retroactively Omniverse inspired. In the episode, Rath just goes on board and kicks his ass. Here, Rath rejects the spacesuit and Gwen says, Ben, remember that thing I did with the force bubble and the air? You need a spacesuit. It is a draft, but that's a pretty sloppy line. Though Rath does succumb to wearing the spacesuit in the draft, whereas in the episode, he just toughs it out. This actually does make more sense. I mean, sloppy line or not, Rath did get knocked out when he did breathe enough air, so him going without the spacesuit is kind of funny, but it does contradict like what we've seen earlier in the episode. And he uses magnetized boots. If they did do the suit thing, it'd be pretty sick if it was like the plumber's hazmat suit from Classic. And there's this nice little fight scene against all of the other frogs. Happens inside of their ship and off screen in the episode. Ribbit. Curses Milius. Love it. Then they shove him in a black hole. Double fribbit, he says. The double fribbit kind of ruins it, though. It's only funny the first time. They specify what planet they're on with Vulcanus in this draft, which isn't present in the episode. They also describe a crystalline forest, which we kind of got, maybe? I wouldn't say forest, though. Vulcanus is misspelled as well. The names are not spelled right in this at all. This is a good character change, though, is when Kevin talks about his nightmares.
This whole trip is like one of those dreams where everyone you know is in it, and they all want to hurt you.
Gwen says she's never had dreams like that. In the draft, Kevin responds, really? I do. But in the episode, he covers it up a little bit.
I don't have dreams like that.
Oh, me either.
Much more in line for Kevin's character. Jarrett's called Bleb. Alright. He's supposed to be all mouth and teeth, very grotesque like Jabba the Hutt, in which he was actualized as a big red guy. I've got a bad feeling about this. Wow, this is just a very Star Wars inspired draft here. Left Jarrett eats the baby. Rath bursts out of his mouth, breaking his teeth. Rath threatens to use his intestines like a scarf, whereas in the canon, it's a sweater. Rath calls out the Luodans for their asinine plan. Ben points out the interference, whereas in the episode it's Gwen. And Ben attempts to get Rath again to beat up Kevin, whereas we actually see him use Rath in the episode. But we made it through another draft, folks. Real good stuff here.
We looked it up in the ALDB. Huh? Alien Life Form Database.
The Ben 10 AF Mini Bible. Oh, you know what? I think this is the one that I read early. Because the other one, as I was reading it, I didn't really recognize it, and there was something in there that I thought was in there that I didn't end up seeing. I'm pretty sure it's in here. So we've been through a lot of this already. Let's just take a quick look. A lot of this is the same stuff from the first Bible. They're still specifying that Ben's grandmother is a plumber, though, and it still has the mistake of accidentally calling Ben Kevin. Though now we're seeing some artwork of the aliens. Swamp Fire, Goop. Echo Echo is now called Echo Echo and not just the single one. Okay, so it's an updated Bible, but they call it the Mini Bible. Jet Ray is Jet Ray and not Blue Streak. Still emphasizes the speed of sound. Big Chill. Chromastone is Chromastone. Okay, this is the start of what I read. They say Chromastone has has a mysterious, as yet unrevealed link to Diamond Head's race. So this was updated before season 3 was completed, but Secret of Chromastone was towards the end of season 3, I believe. Yeah, Rath has been added. No approved design. So we are still in the very early stages. An ill-mannered bruiser who would actually prefer starting a fight to solving whatever the problem is. They don't say he's a tiger or what his powers are, just the fact that he's an angry being. In fact, in the Con of Rath outline, did they call him a tiger? No, they didn't. So in this point in time, they just knew he was an angry alien. So I guess the idea to make him a tiger came very late, or at least a lot later than all of this. Lodestar, this is a very simplified design for him. It is essentially the same thing except like with different patterns. And our Lodestar has a mouth as well. From the planet Maxwell. That can't be right. They were going to originally call Lodestar's planet Maxwell. That's some bullshit right there. Can you imagine? I'm checking the wiki and it says Maxwell is named after James Clerk Maxwell, the physicist who formulated Maxwell's equations describing electromagnetism. That's fucking nuts. Did they it's on the wiki too? Is this canon? Is his home planet really named Maxwell? That's so dumb. I'm sorry. That's such a terrible name. That's so wild. That can't be right. That's such a bad name. Is that really canon? Do we have to make that canon? Oh boy. I liked it better when we didn't even know. Please don't put that on the 5whale wiki. Diamond Head. Okay, here it is right here. So it says Diamond Head is a living prism and can reflect light and beam-based weaponry, channeling them through his body and projecting them back at their source. This power has increased since Diamond Head's recent merging with Chromastone. So, a little bit of history. Similar to Kevin's mineral mutation, it's always been debated on what exactly happened to Diamond Head during Vengeance of Vilgax. Some people said he was simply unlocked after Chromastone's destruction, which was just a vague story way to hint towards the origin of Sugalite, and others felt like Diamond Head merged with Chromastone. And like the Alien X mountain range thing, there has been info cards made it out saying Diamond Head can absorb and redirect energy. As for in the show, we do actually see him do that, although it was only once. Now, when an alien only uses the power once, it's very easy to make the argument that it was a mistake, or like it's just something we should excuse. But there's a lot of things that point towards this being something that Diamond Head was supposed to do, and he really did merge with Chromastone. And this document right here specifies that. Now we're still in the document stage. This has Lodestar concept art and almost nothing about Rath. So its validity can never be 100%. But there's so many things pointing towards this, I think it's safe to say that in Vengeance of Vilgax, Diamond Head really did fuse with Chromastone. We even see Diamond Head get shattered and Chromastone come out of him in Secret of Chromastone. And for the time being, they shared similar abilities. So long story short, no, I don't think Diamond Head absorbing and redirecting light was a mistake. I just think it's a power that they only ended up using once. They probably intended to do it a lot more, but whoever was boarding Diamond Head at the time just didn't use it. Similar to Swampfire controlling plants or Humongousaur growing. Like, just because they stopped doing that after a while doesn't mean that they can't do it, and the times they did was a mistake. Diamond Head's a different case because it only happened once, but I'd still say he was able to do that. Oh, look at this. Upchuck's in here. This is all just standard Upchuck info though. Waybig's here as well. They say nearly 100 feet tall. His size discrepancy continues to evade confirmation. And Cannonbolt's here. We got some information on Gwen. She's still in her first Alien Force design. They're still describing her with the girly girl personality, even though they moved away from it by now. Kevin doesn't have his mutated form in the doc yet. And that's it. Now here we have the same document uploaded 3 different times with varying degrees of completion, but we already dug into this a little bit in the first video. This mysterious 3-parter still stands out to me, but I guess we'll never get any more information on it than what we have here. And the last document is just more specifications on what needs to be done. But looks like it's for season 2. Survivor is Alone Together. Evil Ben is Good Copy, Bad Copy. Save the Last Dance. Spider Monkey Con. It's a clickable link. Okay, it leads to nothing. And War of the Worlds hasn't had a name yet. I think that's it for the Alien Force documents. It looks like we made it through everything. There's these pictures on the site, but nothing we haven't really seen on the wiki before. And it was also in the pitch document. All right. That's all for today, folks. I hope you had just as much fun reading through this as I did, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the documents have in store in a future video. But until then, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. And as always, keep it busy. Big thanks to Andrew Analik and Elizabeth Susan for supporting the channel in the ink cartridge tier. We really appreciate your contributions to developing more ink tank projects. Thanks for being a part of our community.